Hi, everybody. Hope you guys are doing good. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. I know I sent out a poll asking people how are they doing this week. I know I was struggling this week. A lot of people in my office virtual office were struggling this week. So it's been a lot going on. But I've been seeing this story, basically the same article, just posted up via different mediums talking about masculinity at work and this term masculine anxiety. And for me, I wasn't really sure. I hadn't heard that term before, masculine anxiety. So I had to look it up. And so I looked it up, and what I found out is that masculine anxiety is this distress that men are supposed to feel. I shouldn't say supposed to feel because it can be a real thing. I don't know. I'm interested in hearing about it. Distress men feel when they aren't, or they feel like they aren't living up to a standard of masculinity that's expected by society. And it's interesting because I'm going to pull up some articles, all of them pretty much taking into account women and how this affects women. So I thought that was interesting. Like the writer of one article by Forbes is a woman. The Catalyst Workplaces That Work for Women is the one that took the survey of these men. So I want to talk about it. So I'm going to pull up this article. But masculine anxiety is the distress that men feel when they do not think they are living up to society's rigid standards of masculinity. So I'm interested in hearing, especially men in the chat, what you think. Is this a real thing? Is this just fake, something that people are making up to talk about? I'm interested in hearing about it. Let me bring up Restream because I'm not in the studio on my computer. I'm just on my phone. And hopefully you can hear me okay. I don't know. Oh, let me get my mic. My mic's over here. My bad. Let me try this. Okay. Hopefully you can hear me okay. And let me note my sources in here. Let me link the source. So it's Forbes. I'm going to pull up this screen. But this is something folks have been talking about, like on LinkedIn. CNBC was talking about it. Forbes is talking about it as well. And some different news outlets are just talking about this masculinity at work anxiety and that it affects women in different ways. So I want to talk about that. Let me pull up this article just so you can know what I'm talking about. I did put that in the chat as well. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to pull up this study, like the actual survey. So they actually surveyed 1,000 men, not a huge sample, but enough. And they looked at different job levels of men working in the United States, and they're finding 76% of men who experience a high degree of masculine anxiety, and that they would do nothing if a colleague makes a sexist comment at work, compared to just 14% of men who experience less masculine anxiety. So 1 in 4 men, about 28%, said they would be likely to do nothing if their colleague makes a sexist comment. 99% of men indicated that their workplace has any level of, if their workplace has any level of combative culture. And what they're saying is combative is, the top performers are very dominant. Like typically they're dominant, they're masculine. So in that type of environment, they're less likely to speak up. 33% said that if there's a highly combative culture within their workplace, that they are less likely to speak up. So it's interesting. Okay, let me pull up this study so you guys can also look at the article that I'm referencing by Forbes. And I can't see anything that was in here in the chat earlier, so it's kind of weird. But you guys can see my computer on the screen, I think. Okay, so this is the article. This is the Forbes article. It's up to leadership to reduce masculine anxiety and reset norms in the workplace, is what they're saying. Let me make myself a little bit smaller. Actually, let's do this. Okay, no, you can't see me that way. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what's the best view. All right, so I'm going to pull up this for a second just so I can reference, but they're basically saying there are a few things I pulled out of the study that were interesting. The main thing being that if you're in a combative culture where top performers rise through domination and traditionally masculine behaviors, men are less likely to react to incidences of sexism, even like a derogatory comment made about women at work. So this is concerning, and it was interesting to understand that this is the reason why that these women are talking about it. It's not that they care. It doesn't seem like they care about masculine anxiety necessarily, but it's more about how does that relate to women. So some of the other things that came up in the study is that men feel, and I've talked about this a few times, men feel like they can't take full paternity leave without fear of looking weak. Men should feel compared to be able to share their failures, unafraid of appearing vulnerable, and proud of being resilient. And I have definitely seen that in action. And I think generally people know most men don't typically take paternity leave. That's all. That's always been a woman's thing, because it's seen that the woman needs to take the time off and the man needs to continue working. But we know that men also help with when there's a baby in the home, it's a newborn baby, the man at least should be helping at the home. So why wouldn't a man get paternity leave? Is interesting. So they're saying that as well. So they're saying when leaders put down the script and share their true selves, it trickles down and becomes an acceptable norm. Most men we work with are wonderful, respectful colleagues and partners. It's those few bad seeds struggling to hold on to some semblance of power who sow sexism. If women and other men refuse to tolerate their behavior and call them out for their actions, their comments will fall on deaf ears. But if you're in this environment where most of the leadership are very dominant and they're kind of ranked on their masculinity level, then how are men gonna feel like they can speak up? So that was interesting as well. And then the survey basically was shouting out that men feel like they're under attack, which I don't know, I can't speak to, but so men are feeling under attack and under the fear of being canceled. Now I have seen that. I've seen men in the workplace where they're kind of figuring out what to say in times when they work with a lot of women. And hello, Edward, welcome in. I didn't see the comments in here before. But I definitely experienced working with, and I'm thinking about a particular person, worked in the HR environment, pretty masculine looking man, based on society standards. And I could see him internally, like trying to figure out what to say. And he would even say sometimes, like, I want to make sure, I'm being sensitive and things like that, which I thought was great. But yeah, I mean, look, women have been placed in very uncomfortable scenarios at work for a very long time and continue to do so. So I think it's, I don't know how, I'm not sure how women are supposed to take it, right? Because we've been in this scenario too. Something else that came up is that they said there's a fear of getting canceled and we should be in a place where we can forgive and forget. This is something that they pointed out later in the article, which I was like, do men forgive and forget? I don't know. So Jay, and welcome Jay, in my experience, men at work hold back because they may perceive that being themselves masculine, quote unquote, could get them in trouble with women. Okay, I want to hear more about that, Jay, because I want to know why. Because here's the thing. I don't think masculine or being masculine is a bad thing. There are certain things that I think there's a difference between the whole machismo or the toxic masculinity, right? Or where you have to put down women to exert your masculinity, right? But there's a lot of things that men bring to the workplace that are stemmed in that masculinity that can be really useful. One thing being just communication, being very direct. When you're in a workplace that's primarily women, unless there are some women that do take on those more quote unquote masculine traits of being very direct and clear in their communication, you can run into some instances where and I personally had this struggle with working with different women versus or comparing that to working with men. And sometimes it can be very unclear what a woman is really looking for because of the communication style. We are taught to be more passive. And I've talked about this on the channel before, where we'll be like, well, I just think that what if you did it this way? Or we're really taught to be very soft in our communication style. Even if we're saying we don't like your idea, we're not just going to say we don't like your idea. We're going to say, well, have you thought about this? Or, that's interesting. And I think you need a little bit of that. I do think that's helpful because people don't want to hear, oh, your idea sucks. Like, we don't really need to hear that, but there's a balance that should be in place where you can say directly, this will not work because of X, Y, and Z, or I think that won't work because of X, Y, and Z. Here's why, or here's something to back it up, versus I just feel like, or well, and it's not very clear. So there's some things that can come up that can be really positive that men bring into the workplace. Jay says, used to be that women were secretaries, receptionists, in roles that were servant-like. Now women are going toe-to-toe with those guys in the boardroom. Men are still adjusting to that. I can see that. I can see that. So you're saying there's an adjustment period happening for men where they're getting used to that idea of women making the decisions. And here's the thing, and I wanna scroll down to this part. Because you're right. Like, yeah, they need to take an adjustment period. I just don't know if, in my perspective, if there's really anything that women should be worried about so much. But I think there's a mix in this article about holding men accountable, holding leadership accountable, to make sure that there's not a toxic masculinity type of culture where men can feel like they can speak up if there's something actually happening negatively to women. So something that they pointed out, they said, when I did the original research for Future Men at Work in 2016, the most fascinating statistic was that the percentage of men self-identifying as feminists was declining for the first time ever. It had reached a high point of 35% and had shown a couple of years decline. I hadn't seen a recent data point. If men feel they're experiencing masculine anxiety at work and under attack, keyword under attack, I believe it's a small minority who consider other men their attackers. So basically saying that they feel women are attacking them at work, right? And something else they pointed out, so this is Myers. This is a person that was being interviewed. They're like a social ecologist or something. Zales is the person that wrote the article. Her name is Shelley Zales. She is CEO of, the Feminine Quotient? Yeah, Feminine Quotient. So she's interviewing Myers. And so Myers is saying only 25% of men, they were surprised at that. When I was doing my research, the percentage I expected would have been more like 75% of men would be less likely to react or speak up if they saw sexism happening in a workplace. So they thought it would have been more like 75% of men who would have done nothing, and most of them would have participated. I timed the average time it would take for the first misogynistic comment to be made when a small group of men gathered at an event out of earshot of women. It was less than 2 minutes. So that's really scary. I really don't think there's anything that women need to do about this. I really do think that it's totally, like your comment says, men just need to work it out amongst themselves and figure out ways where they can create environments for men to be able to say, hey, I am going to speak up about something, and that does not take away from my masculinity. I think that should be the norm. So they're also saying, I believe the drama in many men's lives today is less about being their real man than it is about adjusting to a world in which their privilege has been reversed. And that's a good point Jay is talking about. So people are getting adjustment to that. So the drama in many men's lives today is less about being a real man than it is about adjusting to a world in which their privilege has been reversed. Because we see the same thing happening, in terms of diversity and inclusion. When you talk about diversity and inclusion, we need to hire more people of diverse backgrounds. What? There's a little friction there sometimes too. Some people, I actually heard about an instance from another HR friend. She's a little more seasoned than I am, but she was leading a D&I training. And there was a point in discussion where, before she really started, where she just said, if you are not, 100% on board with this, you should leave. You are free to leave. And one man actually did walk out. So it's very interesting that how people adjust to that period. So I think you're right, Jay. I definitely think you're right. I'm gonna leave that comment up. So they're also asking about, like, if change happens at home, what can women do? Honestly, I don't think there's enough that women can do. I really think this should be left to the men, but hey. But before that, they said that is the core of much of the backlash we're experiencing, primarily among white men, to the rise of feminism, multiculturalism, and the attacks on our institutions. I would also wonder how Black men are dealing with that too, because there's a lot of stuff going on the internet with Black men saying, I had a discussion talking about something, I don't even remember what it was at this point. I think it was about Black women pay or Black men pay or something, because I've talked about both. And someone brought up Black women moving into feminism, but I'm like, that has nothing to do with this discussion. And so there's some animosity too, or some friction happening where I think Black men are also dealing with it as well. I don't think it's just white men having to deal with it, but they're the primary ones, right? So they're saying men who are open to adopting traditionally feminine characteristics or learning, they have the best opportunities for success in relationships, career, and family life. The more important challenge for women is to confront those men who are doubling down on the real man branding. Asking for change will not succeed with these men. Re-education and societal rejection of this negative persona is essential. So we're asking about post-pandemic, what does the future hold for men? On the subject of masculinity, how it has changed during the pandemic, I can focus only on the wave of violence, of shootings, so they're bringing up George Floyd, nationalism, white nationalism. So we're talking about that. Critical to the conversation today is how women of all colors, religions, and ethnic origins are going to unite as a singular voice and confront those in government who stand with inequality. Interesting. Again, I don't really think there's much women can do. I think it's really in the women's hands. And I really think that's the point of this article. I don't think they're really concerned with the men. And it's interesting that only women have been talking about this. The writer for this, the catalyst that took the survey, all women. So it is interesting that, they're looking into it and kind of figuring out what does this mean for women at this point. But for me, I think that this whole masculine anxiety, it can be true, but women feel anxiety all the time. So with being at work, especially being around men, so why wouldn't men feel a little bit of anxiety in the workplace at this point? Yes, there's a shift of more women moving into leadership roles. More women are becoming entrepreneurs as well. I mean, look, you've had years, and now it's time for change. So at this point, but I do agree that men should feel like they can take paternity leave and they should be able to speak up about different issues without being deemed as less masculine, and then therefore not being able to kind of move up in the ranks or be deemed as a top performer because they're not seen as masculine. I thought that was kind of interesting that there are workplaces like that. Hi, Chris. How are you? And did you complete the survey? And please do hit the like button. There is a survey that I put in here where I asked yay or nay, what do you think? Everett says, all I can say is conversation among guys is different from conversation where women are present. I can say that too. The person I was talking about earlier, and of course I won't name any names, but they typically went to another meeting with another man in the office, and I could tell both of them were so uncomfortable with me being there, so uncomfortable. And it was just like, I don't know, it was just like, it was like, am I like not supposed to be here? Like I felt like they were wanting to say a bunch of things, but they couldn't say it because I was there. Like it was just really awkward. And at the end of the meeting, when it was supposed to be over, I left at the time. It seemed like they still wanted to talk about some stuff, but I left, and I'm sure they went ahead and talked about all the things that they wanted to discuss at that point. And it was just like, I don't even know how to explain it, but it was super uncomfortable. So it if men are feeling, this anxiety, or they feel like they can't really be themselves at the office, it isn't just affecting them, it's also affecting their workplace, it's affecting other women. Like women are typically very sensitive to things. We can pick up on things even if you're trying to hide stuff. So by those men not opening up, it just made it even more awkward. It was just like, okay, so you clearly want to say some stuff that you can't say. And I'm like, what do you, and now it makes me think, okay, what are you guys talking about? Like, is it inappropriate? Is it something that I just shouldn't know? Is it something that I would be sensitive to? I don't know, but it was very it was very strange. So let me put this other article in here. I'm gonna put it in a chat. This is the actual survey from Catalyst, but I I mean, in a culture where you think that the most masculine people will be promoted, or the ones that are the top performers, I just thought it was interesting that 1 out of 4 men in that type of environment would not speak up if something, if some guy was like, um, making some lewd comments to me or something in the office, that 1 of 4 men actually would not say anything. That's a little scary, because in the workplace, you do need men advocates, and a lot of times women are looked at all crazy if we say a guy did something to us. Personally, especially as Black women. A Black woman speaking up about something, not to really take it to the race thing, but I mean, you just see it. You see it all the time. There's a woman that spoke up about some guy stalking her, and people were side eyeing her. The rapper Megan Thee Stallion, well, I side eyed that a little bit, but I mean, at the end of the day, she did get shot. So people were side eyeing her like as if she was not shot by a man. And so, yeah, I mean, it's we do need men to speak up in those instances, instead of having the whole bro, am I in the frame? Bro code, not saying anything. We need men to do that. And I do think it starts with leadership, which was the point of the Forbes article. They're saying leaders need to be held accountable. They need to create a culture where men feel more comfortable speaking up. And I think that's true. I think that's true in general, like speaking up about all of the isms that happen. I think they should feel comfortable doing that. Thank you, Edward. Yes, you hit the like button if you are liking the video, or down button if you hate it. But this masculine anxiety, it sounds like a couple of you, let me see if I can look up in YouTube what you guys said in the survey. And then I gotta close out in 30 minutes. I'm gonna have a premiere. I am talking about some Black ladies that were saying their thoughts about whether money is important or not in dating. And so I'm giving my commentary. It's my first commentary like that in a while. So I opened it up to my members. And so they gave me some comments, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to open it up to the world now. But let me see. I don't know why YouTube is like, anything that you say, you have to be kind of careful. So I'm sure this won't be. I'm sure this will not be monetized. Okay, so let me see if I can look at these. Only 50. Okay, so 50% said yes. Do men feel pressured to be masculine at work. So 50% said yes, 50% said no. Interesting. That's interesting. So really, so you guys don't feel, so Jay, Chris, Edward, I mean, so they're just kind of making this up? It's not true? You guys don't feel anxiety? You don't feel like you're going to be canceled? You don't feel like you're under attack at any time? You don't feel like people are kind of waiting for you to say something wrong or do something wrong so you can get canceled? You don't feel like you are going to be deemed not masculine if you failed at something, if you share your failures, if you take paternity leave, or if you speak out if there's something happening to a woman that is deemed not right? I'm interested in hearing that. I'm gonna leave this up and then I'm gonna go, but yeah, it's interesting that you guys don't really think that. Oh, thanks, Chris. Yes, please do hit the thumbs up. Chris said you can tell me by myself. I didn't. I work by myself. Oh, you work by yourself, so you don't have any anxiety. Okay, I can see that. I get that for sure. Chris says I definitely feel like if I said whatever I thought, half of society would cancel. Oh my gosh. I mean, well, that's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. I don't think any of us can really go around just saying whatever pops into our head. I personally do not want everybody to say whatever pops in their head. That scares me a little bit. I'm like, you can just keep you can just keep that one to yourself. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But I agree with you. It's interesting because some people seem to be their full selves at work and say whatever in the world comes to the top of their head. And other people you can tell are more reserved. I'm somewhere in the middle. I lean more towards the reserved side just because I am naturally an introvert. So my first instinct is to observe and listen and see what people are saying. And then from there, I normally will say something, or I start to open up more around people as I meet them. Like when I first meet someone, they typically think I'm shy unless I'm at a networking event. That's a totally different game. Unless if it's over the phone, we're talking, or I'm at a network event or a meeting or something like that, I'm a little more extroverted. But just in general, if I'm just meeting you one-on-one for something, nah, just like, okay, I'm gonna answer a few questions, but I'm not gonna really know much about me. Jay says I work by myself too, so I didn't vote. Oh, you didn't vote? Okay, no worries. Boys and girls clubs. Hi. I'm just gonna say GOG. Is that good? GOG. Boys and girls clubs. Boy and Girl Scouts were supposed to be the catalyst for a beautiful world. What happened? Boy and Girl Scouts? I don't really know much about that. I'm not really into that, but I know there's a lot of stuff that has happened with Boy Scouts, like of America, I think. So Jay says can't cancel Chris. You can't cancel Chris. He works by himself. Oh my goodness. You have to think before you speak. Oh yeah, for sure. We do not want people to look, I mean, unless you're a politician, I feel like they get to just say what in the world they want and do whatever they want, and they still get voted into office and whatever. So, I mean, I guess if you want to say whatever you want, you become a politician. Or you become a billionaire. I don't know. That's all I'm going to say about that. Jason, I see what you did there. Oh my gosh. Let me look. I think I missed a couple of comments. So I want to go up and just make sure I didn't miss anyone because I do want to know what you guys think. I'm not a man, so I don't know. I don't know what, the only thing I can talk to is what I've seen of other men. Now, I have also come across men that had no issue. I've been flirted with in the office. I've been asked out in the office. I've been slightly stalked in the office where someone's consistently trying to talk to me or trail me down in the office, where you're like in a place where you're trying to avoid someone because like it's just a whole, it can be really awkward for women. I don't know if that affects men as much, but I actually have seen a woman flirting with a guy, like not over the top, but just to the point where it's uncomfortable. So it's like, and I've also seen a man in leadership flirting with a guy in the office. So like, what are you doing next? And the person happened to be straight. I'm not going to say where that was, of course. But yeah, I have seen that in action, and it is awkward. And it was office and also outside of the office, more work event related. And it's just like, as a woman, it like, we're very sensitive to things. So we typically are seeing what's happening, and it's like, it makes us uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable. I don't know. So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring to the discussion. I'm going to close this out. Be sure to watch my premiere. It's going to happen in about 20 minutes. So join it whenever you can. Take a look at that. It's all about women talking about whether money matters in dating. And so I would love to hear your thoughts about that too. Thank you guys for being here. There were no women in the chat, I don't think, tonight. So I guess all the ladies tonight have dates or something, and I don't have a date. Oh wait, Angie, I spoke too soon. Angie Pooh. Welcome, Angie Pooh. I don't normally see you here, so nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. So we were talking about masculine anxiety and if that is real. And if it is real, what does it look like, and what is the impact on women when men don't feel like they can speak up if they're in this kind of, I shouldn't say toxic environment, but where men are deemed top performers if they're really masculine, and then that masculinity gets taken away if they are speaking up about a man maybe having some comments for a woman, right? Or if you're taking paternity leave, if you're talking about things that you failed at, or if you're or these feelings of like being under attack, or folks waiting for you to say something wrong or do something wrong, fear of getting canceled, all of that kind of stuff. So that's what we're talking about, Angie Poo. Anyway, you can replay the video if you're very interested in it. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Again, I think at this point, men just have to deal with other men. And if you do see a man doing something wrong or saying something wrong, I think men should feel empowered to do something, because still to this present day, even though women are just now getting into certain spaces, which was called out earlier, I think by Jay, we're just now getting into these spaces where we're in the boardroom, or we're able to make real decisions. We're in the quote unquote boys club, or we're close to the boys club now, and you're dealing with it. But it's like, okay, well, should women really even feel bad at this point? Because women have been treated all kinds of ways for a really long time. A really long time. So, I mean, what does that mean? And then there was something else. I almost forgot. This is what I want to highlight. I can't believe I forgot about that. So I'll just say it. I'll just read it. So there was a point in the article where they said, it's a problem when men are in a charged atmosphere in which every action, past and present, has the potential to cancel them. Egregious, I'm going to say that word, past behavior should be outed and a penalty paid. But where forgiveness is appropriate, let's give men a break and try to forgive and forget. My question is, do men really forgive and forget? So if women are supposed to forgive and forget, has that really been the model of men? I don't know. I don't know. So I think it depends on what the instance is. Forgive and forget. I don't know about that. I think no, people should be held accountable. Now I get where they're saying, like, in an instance. So it depends on the instance. But overall, I just think people should probably be held accountable at this point, because women have not been, look, we're just getting to the space and you're already talking about give us some forgiveness. I don't know. But again, these are women talking about forgiveness. I think it's really natural for women to be like, oh, well, let's, forgive and forget. We'll talk about that in another video, how women, sometimes sometimes we're hurting ourselves because of certain things that we've been naturally taught to do. So I'll leave it there. Alrighty, guys. It looks like folks are connecting with each other. Pow pow. Pow pow, you came in on the ending. I feel like you're always coming at the end because of timing. I'm always catching you like during your dinner or something. Oh, Jay, you don't create content? You're an observer? Okay. Well, thanks for observing with us. And welcome Pow Pow at the end. Hope Italy is wonderful. Hope it's wonderful there. All right, guys. Be sure to watch the premiere. It's gonna post in a couple of minutes, and I'll see you guys later. Have a good night and have a nice weekend. I'll be on sometime tomorrow. Bye.